Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hello, it's Ivy Slater, and welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. So I have an amazing guest, as I always say. I'm so fortunate and blessed to speak to so many impactful leaders. Ben Fuchs is a pharmacist. He formulated a skincare health systems that is sought after by wholesalers and medical professionals. As a registered pharmacist, he's a nutritionist and skincare chemist for over 3 decades. This man doesn't just know skincare and pharmacy, he knows how to build a business, which is one of the reasons I was really excited to get Ben on Her Success Story today. He's been developing a pharmacy-potent anti-aging, talking my language here, Ben, natural skin health products for estheticians, dermatologists, physicians, plastic surgeons, integrative pharmacies, and savvy customers. More than anything, Ben is a smart, knowledgeable, down-to-earth, great guy that I'm excited to have a conversation with. So thanks, Ben, for coming on today.
Ivy. I don't know if I can live up to all that.
I know you bet. I think you can.
And I'm just a little old pharmacist.
Just a little old.
I am.
So speaking of being just a little old pharmacist,
yes,
because I found your background fascinating of how you came to, you're a boy out of the East Coast,
right.
kind of brought up in a pretty similar environment as me. Yeah. And now you're living the life out in Colorado, yeah, and have transformed your business, your world, and so many others. So how'd this come to be?
I just thought, I was raised in the 1970s, and I'm a little older than you. But in the 1970s, there was kind of like there's a mentality of doing something for the world, of making the world a better place. And I was kind of steeped in this idea that we were all here to make the world better. We were all here to leave our mark on the world. This kind of consumed me. I always felt like that was an obligation that human beings had to do. So I always focused on that from that time I was a teenager. I was focusing on improving the lot of humanity, improving the lot of the planet. Not that it necessarily needed me, but I always had the idea that that's what makes for a fulfilling existence. Yeah. So I thought about all the different ways I could do it. I thought being a journalist first would help, and so I went to journalism school and I studied journalism. And when I graduated, I realized I couldn't make any money being a journalist. And so I kind of thinking, and I always loved chemistry, and I always loved biology, and I was an athlete, and I was working with nutrition, and I thought, how can I somehow leverage the enjoyment I have about of biology and chemistry and working out and nutrition? How can I somehow leverage that to make a living, just to make an income, and also to make a difference, to help people? And I got this idea in my 20-year-old head that I should be a pharmacist, because I thought, well, pharmacists study medicine.
It's chemistry. Pharmacy is chemistry. It has an aspect of assisting, doctors, which is biology. It's helping others.
All of that.
It checks a lot of boxes.
It checked a lot of boxes, right?
Yeah.
But what I wanted to do was help people. And when I got to pharmacy school, a huge amount of the time we spent in curricula at pharmacy school was studying poison. It was studying toxicity. Wow. It was studying how you mitigate toxicity. It was studying how you develop and design pharmaceuticals so they don't kill people. It was studying how you compel.
Well, doing good is not killing people, so that's a good thing.
Well, that was a good thing,
right? But where does that transform to? So you did the pharmacy piece,
yeah,
but then you transformed.
Well, let me explain. So most of what we spent time with in pharmacy school was studying this idea that pharmacy is poison, and how you mitigate the poisonous effects, side effects, adverse reactions, etc. But there's something else we studied in pharmacy school that nobody really realizes and nobody thinks about, and that is we study nutrition in pharmacy school. We study nutrition, but not like a dietitian studies nutrition, or not like a nutritionist studies nutrition. We study nutrition like a pharmacist studies nutrition. In other words, we study the medicinal properties of nutrients. We study the medicinal and healing effects of vitamin A, of vitamin C, of magnesium, of calcium, of essential fatty acids. We study how those work in the body to create a healthy body. And we study in pharmacy school diseases as nutritional deficiencies. We study the nutritional deficiency aspects of diabetes. We study the nutritional deficiency aspects of psoriasis. We study the nutritional deficiency aspects of cancer. So on the one hand, I'm getting a background in pharmacy school on poison and learning about poisons and learning how you use poisons. Medicine and poison are almost synonymous. And on the other hand, I'm studying nutrition as medicine, and I'm studying disease states as nutritional deficiencies. So I left pharmacy school with this idea in my head, well, wait a minute. If the things we're dispensing, we're learning to dispense as medicines are really poisons, but the diseases themselves have an aspect of nutritional deficiencies, and nutrients are really functionally like medicines, why aren't we using nutrition? I kind of put this in my head here a little bit. Now, to make it slightly more complex, one day I was walking through the basement of the School of Pharmacy in Boulder, Colorado. I smelled a pepperminty smell coming out of one of the rooms, and I went into the room. I saw this amazing laboratory, and there was a little old man tinkering around some beakers. I started chatting him up. Long story short, this little old man that I was chatting up was the guy who invented the lip medicine Blistex. Wow. And this little room that I had walked into was the Blistex Research Lab in Boulder, Colorado, in the basement of the School of Pharmacy. And at the end of my little 20-minute conversation with Dr. Jones, the inventor, he says to me, you want to be my research assistant? I'm just like, heck yeah, I want to be a research assistant. I spent the next 4 years while my colleagues were getting, my fellow students were getting their internship hours in drugstores. I was getting my internship hours in the Blistex lab, learning everything you could possibly want to know about skincare, about the lips and about ingredients, and how you test ingredients, how you formulate products from a genius, from a pharmacist genius, a medicinal pharmacist who understood that you could use topical means to address skincare problems medicinally. And so I left pharmacy school with a very interesting background. I didn't know much about drugs. I never worked in a drugstore, but I knew about nutrition. I knew about diseases as nutritional deficiencies, and I knew about skin and skincare. And so I found myself in my first job in the pharmacy, really being amazed that I was the guy poisoning America. I was responsible for dispensing poisons to children and to old people mostly, because it's mostly children and old people that get the medications. And I was dispensing the poison. I was very troubled by this. And so I did a couple things. First, because of my background is skincare, I found myself going to the skincare section at Kmart, where I was working at my first job at Kmart, right? I'm not proud of that, but whatever. I went to—
And it's a living.
It was a living, and I made good money.
It pays the bills, and you gain
very well.
And you gain experience.
And I gain experience, absolutely. But I pick up the oil of Olay and the Nivea. I look at the ingredients, and I go, oh my God, I cannot believe people are putting that stuff on their skin. Because I knew what the ingredients were, and I knew there were the ingredients in these things that I didn't even want to touch. I would wear a mask and I'd wear gloves. I didn't want to touch or breathe them. When I was in the laboratory, people were like, women mostly were rubbing it on their bodies. And then I realized I started to do something with my patients. When they came in to get their antibiotics, I started suggesting that they take vitamin C with their antibiotics. Or if they came in for their acne medicine, or the kids came in for their acne medicine, I would suggest they take zinc with their acne medicine. Or if they came in with a beta blocker, I would suggest they had a little magnesium with their beta blocker. I started suggesting nutritional supplements to people when they had to take with their medicines, because I knew that there was a role for nutrition. This is 1980. This was 1986. Okay, so this is before health. There were no Whole Foods, there weren't vitamin stores everywhere. It's kind of a primitive time. But people started to get better. They started to have great results. And not only did the vitamin C help mitigate or reduce some of the side effects from the antibiotics, but they would notice that their blood pressure would drop. Or they would notice when they took their magnesium that they could sleep better. Or they would notice when they took their essential fatty acids that their skin would improve. So I was like, wait a minute, I'm onto something here. It took me a while to figure this out, from pharmacy school and then starting to dispense things. So finally, at the end, after a while, instead of telling people to take their magnesium, to take some magnesium with their beta blocker, I started to say, maybe you want to take your magnesium instead of your beta blocker. Or maybe you want some vitamin C instead of your antibiotics. Now, needless to say, Kmart was not thrilled with Pharmacist Ben at that point.
By any means.
Right? And so it wasn't very long before, when Mr. Ozier, my district manager, came walking in, I'll never forget what he said to me. He goes, Ben, you're just not cut out to be Kmart material. And I took that as my clue, as my cue that it was time for me to start my own pharmacy. And that's exactly
right. So, okay. You're now, I don't know, probably not yet 30 years old.
Not yet 30 years old.
Right. And start your own pharmacy. You know, I'm a person in my 20s who said, I'm going to own a business. I had no idea how I was going to do it, what it was going to look like, but I knew I was going to do it. So how did you get started? And then I want to go to
that's a great question.
Involved today.
That's a great question. So I was very dissatisfied with being a pharmacist. Like I told you, I felt like guilty. I felt like I was the guy dispensing poison. And the first year I graduated pharmacy school, I made a lot of money. I was very happy. And so I was like, wow, I started working a lot of hours. I was making back then in 1986, I was making like 40, 50 bucks an hour and then 90 bucks an hour whole overtime. So I'd work a lot. I was making a lot of money. I was enjoying it. But by the second year, I realized something very important, that it's not about, you can't just do things for money. If you don't feel good doing something, if you don't feel like you're really fulfilled or doing good in the world, making money is not enough. And I became very depressed because I realized I was stuck. I was making money. I had a family, and this is my skill. I was going to be a pharmacist the rest of my life. So I got very depressed. And you know what I did? And this is 1980, this is probably 87, 88 now. I started doing something that I do to this day. I became obsessed with self-help. And this is before, you know, it wasn't everywhere. It was kind of a radical thing. I started getting Nightingale Conan. I don't know if you ever heard of Nightingale Conan.
Yep.
I started getting Nightingale Conan tapes. I just became obsessed with it. And I realized how important it was to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And I became very just focused on this idea that I could change my life, that I could take control over my life. The first guy who really got me into this was Anthony Robbins. And I read a book called Unlimited Power. And it literally changed my life. For the first time, I got that we're responsible for our state of mind. I don't know if you've ever read this book, Unlimited Power. It was his first book. It came out you know who Anthony Robbins is, obviously. Sure. But it came out in 1987. It was his first book. And this book taught me that there's this thing called state, S-T-A-T-E, state. I'd never heard this, that our mind, our moods and the way we think is not random. We have a thing called state, a state of mind. And this state of mind is malleable. It can be moved, it's flexible. We have control over this state of mind. I became obsessed with this idea that I could craft my own life. And so I started reading books on self-help. I started reading books on business because I figured that I could get into my own business, start doing my own business. And then in combination, being depressed and not being happy as a pharmacist, and seeing that there was a need for people to understand nutrition as medicine, and seeing the benefits nutrition could do, plus having a skill set in skincare and understanding how to make skincare products, it was just a natural for me to start a pharmacy where I made skincare products and formulated nutritional products. It just all blended together. And so I started a business. I started a pharmacy, and this is true, I believe, for any business. If you start a business and you are completely into it, dedicated to it, passionate about it, not just in terms of a money thing, although that has to be there too, but in terms of really seeing this as an opportunity for you to leave your mark and feeling like you have something to say that's valuable, you can get through anything. And I had to get through all kinds of stuff. I lost customers, and I was broke, and I didn't have money to get a car, and all kinds of things happened to me when I was starting. But you know what? It worked out. Pieces fell into place. I met the right people at the right time. You know, I had the right opportunities come my way at the right time. If you're in the marketplace, if you're there, things will happen to you. Things will happen for you if you just keep doing it and you don't give up. And that was a very valuable lesson for me.
I definitely want to chime in here because there's a strong belief that people have to have a lot of things in place first. And they have to, and they're like, I'm working, today, yes, we do need a website, but I'm working on my website. And Slater Success started for the first 2 to 3 years. There was no website.
Yes.
And I said, if I can sell X amount of, as I create X amount of clients, I have the cash flow to create a website.
Yes.
And it's the concept of finding what you can do to move a business forward.
100%. If you do something every day, if you take one step forward, just one step forward every day, one thing that will get you to your dream, get you to your goal, get you to accomplish. Always one, Ivy, not 10, not 5, one every day. And
I'm going to chime in with you. And yes, a baby step counts.
Yes, a baby step counts.
Turtle or the hare? Who wins the race?
Absolutely. I tell people
take a baby step.
A baby step. If you study, if you have a subject you like, and you learn one fact about that subject, at the end of the year, you will be a national expert. You'll have 365 facts about your favorite subject. If you could talk 10 seconds on that one fact, you will have hours that you can speak on that subject by the end of the year. If you learn one thing that you can talk about 10 seconds, by the end of 5 years, you'll be a world expert. At the end of 10 years, you'll be the biggest expert that ever lived on the planet on that specific subject. And that's so important that we understand that it's just the little things that you do, but you have to do them consistently. You have to do them every day, not a day off. And if you love something, you will do it. It won't be a struggle for you. So you have to first find something that you really love to do. And it could be something like throwing parties. It could be something like knitting sweaters. It could be something like, making earrings. It could be something like making a skin product. It could be hair. It could be anything. It could be whatever you like to do. You just have to want to do it.
And I will always say that it's the consistency that wins the race.
100%.
It's not in how well you do something, how often you do it, how this you do it, how that you do it. If you do it right, if you do it wrong, wrong counts.
Wrong counts. You hear the story about, I'm sure you've heard this. Thomas Edison said when he invented the light bulb, he said, I didn't fail 995 times because it took him 1,000 times. He said, I didn't fail 999 times. I learned 999 ways not to make a light bulb, right? And that's how I feel in the laboratory when I'm making products. Failures count. They're good. They take you on the road. It's like when you're sculpting, you got to throw out a bunch of clay when you're sculpting, right? So there's stuff you throw out. That's not waste. That's getting you your sculpture. And that's kind of how it's an attitude thing, Ivy. It's an attitude thing.
Let's talk attitude because Because I agree with you. Attitude is as important, if not more important. So I'll always say, one of my biggest lessons is, and I wrote this in the 7 Traits of Great Leadership, and it's so simple. Show up every day with a what can I do attitude.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've had snow this winter on the East Coast. What can I do? Well, wow, I could play in the snow.
Yeah.
Right. What were that? Right. What can I do? Maybe I can go skiing.
Yeah.
Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this.
Yeah.
What else can I do? Well, guess what? Had a snow day. Wow, I'm working on my next book. Maybe what can I do? Maybe I could write a little bit, right? Whatever the circumstances. And I just picked snow because why not? You're in Colorado, so I thought of it.
Yes.
Love to ski out west.
Yeah.
It's the idea of every day we're presented with things.
Every day, every moment. Every moment is a choice. Every moment is a choice. Every split second is a choice. Am I going to go? This is what being enlightened is, by the way. Every moment, if you choose to say yes to what shows up in life, you will be enlightened. Every moment you say yes to life, every single breath you take is a choice that you can make to say, am I going to be a positive force? Am I going to connect with God or spirit or the world? Am I going to make a positive difference or not, or negative? Every moment you can do that. And I don't do it every moment. I don't say yes to every moment. I still have my resistances, but I know that at any moment I can say yes to life. And that's what it is. It's an attitude thing. It's not what shows up. And there's a famous quote, I think Henry Ford said this. He said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Either way.
1,000%. And listeners, I have to tell you, Ben and I are sitting here talking. Damn, would I like to be on stage with the two of us one day, having a damn good time. Yes, we are all presented with resistance. We are human beings, human nature. We see an end of a cliff. Thankfully, we're going to think about, right?
Thankfully. That's right.
On the other hand of that, I said something, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, well, it's an amazing thing. She said, what is? I said, well, if you think you could do something, you can do it. She goes, absolutely. I said, if you think something's hard, guess what?
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And if you think you can't do something, I bet you can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it all starts with
thinking. It's how you think about things, your perspective. And that's the gift we have from God, is that we have the ability to change our perspective. Not the events, but our perspective on the events, how we see the events. And this is the greatest gift. If I was a God and I wanted to make a creature, this is the greatest gift I would give them, is the gift of being able to change their perspective on what it is. Lemons from lemonade. You know, it could be the famous story. You probably heard this one too, of the kid who finds all his friends get for Christmas, all his friends get presents, but he gets a bunch of horse crap. And he's looking through the horse crap, and he's looking through the horse crap. You heard the story? And
I love it.
He says, I know there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. Right? I love that. I know there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. No matter what, I know there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. Right?
So let's talk about the pony of your business today.
Yes. I'm so blessed because at a young age, I figured out that you just got to keep doing it. I love chemistry. I'm in love with molecules. I can't get enough of it. I mean, every day, literally, I learn 5 to 10 new things about the body or about molecular chemistry, about organic chemistry, and the pieces just come into place. And the more, it's a snowball effect because the more pieces come into place, the more you can absorb. It's like Velcro. So pieces are little pieces of Velcro, and then you can more things stick to it. Eventually, you have a big snowball. So right now, I understand the body extremely well. I understand the skin extremely well, and I understand chemistry and physics extremely well because I love it. So I can share that with people in a way, not because I have technical information, but because I understand it so well, I can share it, I can transmit it. And this is a very powerful tool for people to have in their own lives, for when it comes to how they eat, when it comes to how they exercise, when it comes to how they live their lives. There's so many ways biology and chemistry have an impact on how functional, on the quality of their lives. I get to share that with people to improve their quality of life. And I do it through my radio show. I do it through my blog. I do it before COVID. I used to do many presentations. Now I do a lot of YouTubes. So everything I wanted to do when I was a kid in the 1970s, leaving a mark on people and leaving a mark on the world and helping improve people's lives and making a positive difference, I get to do in spades. I get to do, it's such an amazing thing. And it all started because that's what I wanted to do. That was the gift that I wanted to bring to the world. And that's what I felt would make for a quality life. And that's what I felt would make my life valuable and worthwhile. And when I was a little kid, I said, you know what? I want to have an airport named after me. I think I told you this. I want to have a highway. I don't think I'm going to get there yet. I might not get a stadium or a highway or an airport, but maybe I'll get a statue in the park. I'm at the statue in the park level, and that'll be good enough because that means that I had an impact on the world and I helped improve people's lives. But, just getting letters from people, when you get letters from people or hearing, when they call me on my radio show and tell me the impact I had, it just makes me, I can sleep at night. I can look at myself in the mirror. It's so gratifying and fulfilling. It's hard to even put it into words.
So, I got the nutritional side. And let's look about the skincare. That's making product, that's manufacturing, that's sales 101, especially getting into numerous kinds from everything from dermatologist offices to plastic surgery,
all that.
Let's look at that piece of the business while we still have a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
How did you start? Not just I got to get started on it, but then there's the scaling piece.
Yeah. The scaling piece was tricky. Because I did it very well in a small setting, in a pharmacy. People come into the pharmacy, I actually make products for them, and then I just sell it to them, basically. But then it caught on, and then the skincare business started to get big in the 1990s, and I was already doing it, and I already knew how to do it. I knew how to do it like a pharmacist, I knew how to heal the skin topically. So I made, looking back on it, I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided I would just take some labels. I went to Kinko's. And I said, I'm going to start selling these door to door, literally. And I went to Kinko's and printed up little address labels, and they look stupid. And I stuck them on the bottles, and they had Scotch tape on them and little razor cuts for the Scotch tape. And I drove around in my little Audi and knocked on doors. Hey, I'm Ben, the pharmacist. This may not look like much, but it's the most incredible skincare product you'll ever use. And because it was such quality stuff, it really caught on. But what I realized was the most important part of sales wasn't my products. The most important part of sales was the relationships. The connections that I was forming. And I thought to myself, what a beautiful thing sales is. You're making friends. I would do my sales calls sometimes. I wouldn't even talk about my products. For the first time I went, I would just talk about them. Or just talk about life. We just form bonds and connections. And I realized that's what sales is. Sales is the most beautiful spiritual opportunity a human being can have because you're forming connections. You're forming this web, this network of interactions with humanity and human beings. And if you're selling them something that's going to improve their lives, all the better. But really what it's about is love. Love to me is the attractive force Love is putting things together. And whether it shows up as the love that a human being has, or that a mother has for their child, or whether it's your love of spaghetti, or whether it's your love of your pet, whatever it is, love is pulling things together. It's the opposite of hate, which is the separation of things. And this is from the Course in Miracles. I don't know if you ever heard of A Course in Miracles. It's the two fundamental forces, is the force of attraction or the force of separation. Yeah. And sales is the most golden opportunity to express love, to form connections. And I realized that the more I loved, the better my sales were. The more spiritual I was in terms of my interactions with people, in terms of giving more than receiving, better to give than it is to receive, the better, more money I was making, the more successful my business was. To this day, I believe that as much as I love my products and I'm proud of my products and how they change people's skin, it's really the interactions that I'm having with people, either one-on-one or in group settings, or even through my marketing. And this is one of the reasons why I love Jackie what Jackie's doing so much and what you're doing so much, because I feel like it's not just me doing, this is my perspective maybe, but I think there's a lot of us out here, Ivy. There's a lot of us, and the world is changing in this way. And sales is going from this antagonistic kind of adversarial 1950s and 1940s model where, I trick you into buying things and I convince you into buying things. The consumer holds on to their wallet because they don't want you to reach your hand into their pocket, to this idea that how can we serve each other? How can we help each other? How can we love each other? How can we make each other's lives better? And that's what I see that's how I do my sales. And that's what I see as the secret to the success I've had. That's what I see as the secret to the success.
And it is so well said. It is so well said in the sense of, I've been in sales over 25 plus years, and we'll just stop counting it there because I graduated college and I graduated high school in 1980. So somewhere our paths might have crossed there. Okay. It be that as it may, I have built amazing businesses, and I talk to my clients. The way you show up is with an open heart and an open mind. Yeah. Absolutely. And hold that space and be a receiver, be a giver and a receiver, right? Give of yourself, be of service to others, create the relationships. Because we're not looking for the financial transaction. We're looking for the transactions that comes from building relationships. And if you build solid relationships, when you build solid relationships and endorse solid relationships and continue to build, give, and grow, you will not worry about your sales. That's right. Because it will never be a problem. It will never be a problem. That's exactly right. People will say to you, I loved it when I would talk to people and I talked to them like for an hour and I wouldn't even mention my products. They go, oh, so by the way, what do you have? What are you selling? What can you do for me? They want to hear, because once you bond with people and connect with people, they want to help you. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking to sell. You want them to buy. You want them to want what you have. You want them to want something, not push something down their throats. And I had great products, and that's true. That's got me my reorders, et cetera. It had to be more than that. But at first, it has to be a human-to-human connection. And that's why I love sales. I think sales is the most spiritual thing a human being can do on earth, is being a salesperson, as silly as that may sound. So listeners, you see why I adore Ben, and I was so excited that he was coming on the show. I know her success story. We have an amazing amount of female guests and those few exceptional men. And Ben is by far an exceptional man. Thank you, Ivy. It takes one to know one, by the way. It takes one to know one. Thank you. So share with our listeners, how can they find out more about you, what you're up to, your products, your education? Thank you. So if you go to Truth Treatments, that's with an S, truthtreatments.com, you get all my skincare stuff. If you Google pharmacistben.com, you get my blog and videos and news stories. And if you just Google Pharmacist Ben and anything you want, just Pharmacist Ben and skin, Pharmacist Ben and heart. There's page after page after page after page of videos and blog posts and articles and interviews, et cetera, that I've done. So there's lots of different ways to get a hold of me. And I love answering questions. If you want to send me an email, send it to ben@truthtreatments.com. Or, contact me any way you like. I love talking to people. Awesome. Thank you, Ivy. Listeners, thanks for joining us here today. Ben, thank you. You're amazing. It's always so much fun to talk to you. I've had the pleasure of being on Ben's radio show in the past, so you might want to check that out as you see the two of our journeys together. Listeners, I'll always say, hit subscribe. We come into your inbox or in your podcast app every Monday morning with fresh content and beautiful, amazing guests. In addition to that, The most important piece is dropping in of her success story is leave a comment. What did you take away from Ben and I's conversation today? And what are you taking action from listening? That's the key to showing up. What you took away, and most importantly, what's your action steps? Thank you for joining us. See you next week at Her Success Story.